Okay, I gotta see how good this connection works. Just let me know. So yeah, this is about atheists believing in God. And before we get into that, I have to give the word of the day. And the word of the day is if your worth if your worth is based on your possessions, then you're not going to be worth much in eternity. So that's the word of the day. And for the atheists who think there is no God, or think they believe there is no God, the truth of the matter is that um, you do believe in gods, and you know what they are. And if you think back in time, what are gods? Gods are the volcano. Gods are the pharaohs. Gods are the force of a nation, the power of a nation, and their king. Kings are like gods. Lightning is a god. The sun is a god. Anything that is an actual power is a god. That's how gods are defined. So if you say there's no gods, then you should at least understand what the definition of gods are and what God is. Because God, the God we believe in, is the God of gods, where all the powers come from. So if you believe in powers, which I know you do, you believe in electricity, you believe in radiation from the sun, you believe in powers, which is the definition of gods. With the exception of the God of Israel, is the God of gods, or where all the gods come from, all the powers come from. So when talking about the God of Israel, he's the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. There is no power that is not of God. That's how God is defined. So God is defined as the origin of all powers, because of course an infinite regress of physical powers is nonsensical and contingent. Every physical thing is contingent on another physical thing. So you can't have an infinite regress of physical things, because then all you would have is power, which would obliterate everything, and nothing physical could exist anyway, because you're always requiring a greater power source. So the greater power source is always a greater power, greater force. So at some point, you have to have physical causes that are contingent on a non-physical, non-contingent cause, which is the definition of God. So everybody believes in gods, so don't kid yourself. You believe in gods just like everybody else. And if you took the time to even understand what it is you say doesn't exist. So it's a simple understanding, and there's really no excuse. There's no excuse for anyone claiming that there is no God, because even evangelicals drop the ball explaining God to purported atheists. So if you believe in infinite universes, uh, then or multiple universes, it's the same thing as appealing to God. It's just an appeal to a greater power, greater physical power, another physical power, and another one, without even considering where all this power is coming from. You're just appealing to greater and greater and greater and greater powers, and which is nonsensical. Because where's the ultimate power going to come from? You're appealing to infinite, ultimate power universes. So that's, please make a note of that. Okay, so now the thing is that I just wanted to also go through the latest changes or modifications to the Y chromosome haplogroups and the which is the paternal line, because Dr. Jensen's starting another series about the haplogroups, but he thinks the T is the Semitic Y chromosome. So he's actually switched Shem with Japheth. So the large family of Japheth, which was 7 sons, he says those are Semitic. And the smaller Semitic family, which is 5, which only 5 sons, and was in the middle of all the battles and everything, he says those are Japhethites. So it's a little bit strange. Somehow the Semitic people got switched with the Japhethite people. So that means Chinese, which are in fact Magog, somehow they're Semitic, along with all the rest of the Eurasians. Gomer, which is known to have been in Europe, had his son Ashkenaz, which would be the R1A. He has that as Semitic. But you have to think about it, because, hello, David, how you doing? I1, okay, I'm I1 M253 and M2 we're a tribe of Dan. These are tribe of Issachar and Zebulun. Okay. Issachar and Zebulun, but that would be a different tribe, wouldn't it? R1B is Dan. Dan and not Naphtali. R1B is Japhetic. Let me just go ahead and go through these. Dr. Jensen, Nathaniel Jensen, he claims that the TY chromosome, which makes up 1 to 2 or 3% of the Jewish population, he says that is the original Jewish Y chromosome, or Judaic Y chromosome, or Israelite Y chromosome, and which is totally nonsensical. But if you think about it, the descendants of David, you're going to try to tell me that out of all the descendants of David and all the descendants of Solomon, that there's only 1 or 2 or 3% left of the Judaic Y chromosome, or the Israelite Y chromosome? Then you got the problem of the Cohen modal haplogroup, which is J1. And you're going to tell me that the Jewish people that had a tradition of being Jewish wherever they went, you ask a Jewish person, why are you Jewish? They would just say that's who we are, and we can't change who we are. Why do you do what you do? Why do you keep this? Why do you keep that? Because we're Jews, It's who we are. So you're going to tell me that these people with the tradition of being Jewish people from the land of Judah that were exiled from Israel, you're going to try to tell me that they are so watered down by the nations that they only have like 1 or 2% left in their population? That's nonsense. Because you have the Arabic people, they're J1 too. All the Arabic people and the Israelite people are J2. Dan is related and connected. There's like 2 waves of Dan going into Europe. There's the I1 and the I2. You know, they're connected to the J1 and J2 family tree as well. From Arphaxad, Arpachshad, and that's going through Hebrew. So let me just try to go through real quick what the haplogroups are from just knowing the history and just looking at the lineages and the family trees and matching them up to historical events and historical records where people were. Let me just go ahead and go through them all, real fast, real quick. And that would be the A, B, and C would be Cush. Of course, C is Nimrod. C would be Nimrod. So then there's the so the A, B, and C is Cush. And then there's the E. The E1, the E2, and E3. E3 is Mitzrayim. E1 is probably Put. And E2 is Canaan, which I might have mixed up, but they just switch them around. And D belongs to, I believe, Canaan. So that would be E2. So D branches off from the E2 genetically. So I have designated the D haplogroup as being the Sinites, who went to China apparently, and that's why China was called the land of Sinim, because of the Sinites. So the Sinites then would be the DY chromosome. Nimrod is the CY chromosome. And that takes care of the Hamitic populations. Then the F would be Lud, the Lydians. I have G1 as being Assyria in Europe. So I have G1, and G2 is the Arameans, which of course they're brothers. So they started out with the same Y chromosome. That's why you can't tell the difference between G1 and G2, even though they're different lineages. It's because they're both brothers starting out with the same Y chromosome. So Aram is G2, Asher is G1, who went into Europe along with the C1 of Nimrod, the ruling class of the Assyrian population, or the Babylonian population, the early Babylonian population. And then there's H, which is definitely Elam, can't be anybody else. It's the Elamo-Dravidians and the Gypsies that have a heritage of being Judaic and Elamites, Judaic Elamites. So they have like 40% of their population is H, and 20 or so percent is, or no, they have like about half the population is Judaic, about 20%. No, half the population is Elamite, H, about 20% is Judaic, J2. J2 in the Gypsies that claim to be Jewish. So that's H. So Elam is definitely H. And then there's I and J, which is Arpachshad, Arphaxad, and that's the tribe of Dan and the rest of Israel. So then you have the Japhethites, which is the largest family tree, which is what the Bible says he will enlarge Japheth. Japheth already started out with 7 sons. So they are as follows. There's Gomer in Europe, which is the R1A and R1B, and the R2. That would be Gomer. Q is Madai, which is in the area of the Medes and also in Europe, where Madai went into Europe. Because the Q and R, of course, are brothers, because Gomer and Madai are brothers, so they started out with the same Y chromosome as well. So that's why they're so closely associated, but different distinct lines and different lineages altogether. So then there's K, would be Tubal in Italy. The original population of Italy was Tubal, the original main population. And the K is there to this day. The 8% population is K, and which is distinguished from the rest of the Japhethites. So we have Gomer, Madai, Tubal, and we have the Greeks. We have Javan is the TY chromosome. That's the actual people with a TY chromosome. If Dr. Jensen wants to know, is the Greek C people, which is the reason why the Jewish population has the T in their population, is because they had their association with the Phoenicians, which were largely Greek C people with a TY chromosome. So, and then there's L, which is Javan's brother Tiraz, which is in the mainland Greece. L and T both went to India because of Alexander the Great. Took them to India because Alexander wanted to ride elephants. So he took the L and the T all the way to India, which they're there to this day, of course. And the Javan Sea people also had trade with the Horn of Africa. So there's Greek people in Africa, the Horn of Africa, with the TY chromosome, as well as Africans in Greece. Because of the trade, some of it's slave trade or whatever, but the TY chromosome has a huge presence in the Horn of Africa because of their seafaring ways. So then that's L and T. That's 5. So we need 6, 7. We need 2 more, which is Meshach and Magog. Meshach is the NY chromosome in the north, because Meshach went north. Magog is the OY chromosome, which is the Asian population. Majority of the Asian population has the OY chromosome. That's not C or D, which is Hamitic. So the OY chromosome is Magog, and the NY chromosome is Meshach. So that's 5 sons of Japheth, each one with their designated family tree. So I don't have my specs on, David. Otherwise, I'd try to read better. Rachel, E1, remember E1, B1, but he's definitely Hamitic. Egyptian Canaanites, Joseph married to a daughter, but the maternal line is not going to. Maternal line is that's another study. It's not related to the Y chromosome. The priest on the Canaanite, but then if Joseph's wife was L, which I don't think, there probably is an L maternal DNA in the Jewish population, but it's not a big population. If I remember right, there might be some L in the Jewish population, but it's not not like the H or the U or the V or whatever that is, all the other ones. But the Semitic mitochondrial DNA is 95% of Europeans have Semitic mitochondrial DNA. 95%. The other 5% would be L and or the M, what's ever related to M. So, and then there's two Semitic lines, one Asiatic Semitic line and one Middle Eastern Semitic line. And that's what most of Europeans are from the European branch, which includes not the X. The X would be the Asiatic. But yeah, the E1B1s, those are definitely Hamitic. That's ABC is Kush. E1 would be Put, which is a small. The surprise to me was how small the descendants of Put are, and how small the descendants of Canaan are. What's left, and the DY chromosome being a Sinite is a descendant of Canaan, so that would be part of the Canaanite family tree, which would be E2 probably. But the largest population by far is Mitzrayim. So whenever the Bible refers to Egypt or Africa, it calls them Mitzrayim because that is by far the largest population. But I would like to thank everybody who's participated, and I'll, even if I don't agree right now with what somebody says, I'll look into it and I'll think about it. And if I can be convinced otherwise, then I'll change my mind. But T is definitely not a Semitic Y chromosome. T is definitely the Greek Sea people, and L is the Thracians, Javan's brother to Raz. So we have to get it straight, because out of all the sons of David, descendants of David, male descendants of David, and out of all the male descendants of Solomon, you're going to tell me, or you're going to try to tell me, there's only 1 to 3% of that population left today. No, that's nonsense. Not what people with a heritage of being Judaic, being Kohanim, being Kohen. Kohen have J1, Judaic people have J2, and there's a large percentage of the J2 is M172, which is probably Davidic and or King Solomon, which is a huge population. When they talk about the house of David, they're not talking about wife and children, a wife and 3 children, husband, wife, and three children. That's not the house of David. The house of David is significant, just like the house of Nimrod. When spoken of, the house of Nimrod is very significant as well. So, you can't tell me that there's only 1 to 3% left of the house of David or the house of Solomon. That's just utter nonsense. So, and it has to match up to the family trees that we already have testing. We already have testing. Look at the 1,000 Genomes Project. Look at it, and you can count up the sons of Japheth, 7 sons of Japheth. If you put the M and the O as 2 people, and the R and the Q as 2 people, which they are started out with the same Y chromosome, then you can understand that Q's Madai, R is Gomer, and N is Meshach, and O is Magog. And of course, G1 is Asher, and G2 is Aram. They're separate lineages, separate lines from the same family, from the same Y chromosome originally. So that's how it's working with actual known human history. That's the way it is. And unless I can convince, if you can convince me otherwise, then I'll admit that, yeah, okay, I have this wrong, that wrong, whatever wrong. But for the time being, the Hamitic family is A, B, and C, D, E1, E2, E3. That's the Hamitic family tree. And if you look at it, it's all one family tree. It's all one lineage. All you have to do is look at the lineages. It's one lineage. And then the other lineage, it's not a matter of being able to separate the families. It's identifying correctly who is who. Then there's a Semitic family, which Dr. Jeanson says is Japhethite. Somehow Japheth got switched with the Semitic population, which is in the Middle East. Somehow the Semitic Middle Eastern population got transported into Europe and Asia, became Eurasians, which is total nonsense. Come on, please, come on. Let's get it straight. We don't want to look like, laughing stock. In case you want to know who I am, I'm an I1 M253. I do have a great Jewish grandfather in my lineage, which is like what, a quarter and eighth of what in case anybody's wondering. But I am Scotch Irish with an I1 M253 Y chromosome, and I do have, back in my lineage away, a great Jewish grandfather on my mother's side. In case anybody cares, in case anybody wonders, but that's who I am in this story. But it's interesting because you can follow your family tree all the way back and know exactly who you are. Let me see what David says. How about E1B? All the E's. Well, it's confused. The E1B ones, I don't even know which is which. E1B1B and E1B1A. I don't even know which is which, because it's supposed to be E1, E2, and E3. All these E1B1A and E1B1B, those are all Mitzrayim, if I'm not mistaken. Those are all E3s. Because when I look at the map of the Y chromosome, they have the Berbers as being E3. They have the Egyptians being E3. And they have some of the Cushitic languages as being E3, which they're not Cush, because Cush is A, B, and C. But Mitzrayim had the most number of sons and the most number of descendants, and they just basically, most of Africa is E3, from the E3 family lineage, which is multiple lineages, which would be another interesting study. Okay, so I don't have my specs on. That's why I'm squinting here. Let's see, Jewish ancestry. When we no, but see the Jewish population has one lineage of E, or one branch of E, and it's not the largest population. The largest population by far is J2, J1, J2 in the Jewish population. So I'm not convinced that E is Jewish, which a lot of people think. Yeah. Because if you think about it, the Gomer had three sons: Ashkenaz, Togarma. Ashkenaz, Riphath, and Togarma. And there's three distinct family lineages of R. R1A is in the area which the Ashkenazi Jews call them Ashkenaz because they're in the land of the Ashkenaz, the son of Gomer, because they identified themselves as being of the land of the people of Gomer, specifically the son of Gomer, named Ashkenaz. That's why they call themselves Ashkenazi, because that's where they were. But that J2Y chromosome not only goes up the Rhine River, the J2Y chromosome goes all the way down the Silk Road, all the way to China. And if you don't believe me, look at the Y chromosome of the Uyghurs. The Uyghurs have a large percentage of J2 Judaic Y chromosome in their population. So even the Uyghurs are descendants of Judah. So please make a note of that. Take it to heart. Take it for what it's worth, and get it straight. But Dr. Jensen is doing one good thing, though. Dr. Jensen is getting the correct mutation rate of the Y chromosome and the mtDNA chromosome, and listen to what he's saying in regard to the mutation rate of the Y chromosome. Mutation of the Y chromosome only goes back, 5,000 years to Noah, or 5,000 years to Noah, because that's when Noah was born, 5,000 years ago. So that mutation rate is something to pay attention to. And Dr. Jensen is right. He's on the ball with that. And it disproves completely, utterly disproves evolution, which is total nonsense to begin with. There's no mechanism for evolution. You can't get written instruction that's not there. And you need written instruction that's not there to become something other than what you are. And we're ordered to be humans and not a chinchilla. And there's no such thing as magical morphin monkeys. They have information to be what they are, and they can't get the information to be anything other than what they are by making mistakes. You can't do it. There's no mechanism there. So get that straight. Evolution is nonsense. Human history is true. We are all the descendants of the 16 grandsons of Noah. 16 grandsons of Noah. Okay? So that means there's 16 Y chromosomes, and I just labeled them. I just identified each Y chromosome and assigned it to the 16 grandsons of Noah, which are all the ancient civilizations: Asher, Syria, Elam, Elamite, Mitzrayim is Egypt. On and on. Gomer is Europe. Aram, Arameans, Lydians. Over and over and over again. It's all the same thing. Of course, you got the Greeks, who they are, the Thracians, the real people. Thracians are the ancient civilization. It's an actual ancient civilization. There are no other ancient civilizations. It's Thrace. It's Javan, the Greek Sea people. It's Tubal in ancient Italy. 8% of the population is still there. Direct descendant, male descendants from Tubal, from K. So it's all there. If you can convince me that I have something misplaced, I could change my mind. But I've been looking at this for at least a year or so, and it's fallen into place pretty good. And and I don't see anybody changing my mind. I've changed my own mind many times. If you've been following me, I've changed my mind many times as to who's who, and I didn't even have Africa straight until recently. That Cush is A, B, and C. Then you have E1, which is Put, E2, which I believe is Canaan, and D branches off from either E1 or E2 or E3, but probably Canaan. Probably it's Sinite, the tribe of Sinai tribe, which was known to have gone to Sinai. That's why they're called Sinites, I guess. Well, that's why Sinai is called Sinai, is because they're Sinites. But they eventually, I guess, went all the way to China, which is the land of Sinim, that's the reason why it's called Sinim. If you can convince me otherwise, that would work too. But as far as what I can tell, because I was thinking that the DY chromosome was Havilah, but Havilah is a descendant of Cush. And the DY chromosome doesn't seem to connect to Cush unless Cush had a change in his Y chromosome and then he gave birth to Havilah, which also matched. But the problem is that it also matched the Mitzrayim put in Canaan. Or if it's backwards, then Havilah was born first, and then there was a change in the Y chromosome of Cush, and the rest of them are born, which I don't think is the way it works. But anyways, it has to be something like that. But it's all going to work out, and everybody's present and accounted for. Do a Y chromosome test, and you can find out who you are. God bless. Take care. And if you base yourself on your possessions, you're not going to be worth very much in eternity, because in eternity you won't have any of those possessions. So your self-worth would be non-existent. God bless everybody. Take care and have a great week.